So thank you so much, Dr. Madhuri, for that generous introduction to both of us and a warm welcome that we have received. Thank you, Dr. Archana Jain, for having us here and to constantly be in touch and pursue and help us see the today to be a part of you all. I would also at the outset like to thank Dr. Madhuri Dharankar for, in spite of her health conditions too, to be with us and to share her thoughts too with us. So with all these, we would quickly begin. And as you all are aware, as the topic for today's presentation, and before we begin this topic for a detailed discussion that we would have, I would like to then, in the chat box, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'd like to hear from you as to what then are your ideas of curriculum. Yeah. So when we are talking of curriculum development, I would want to know first as to what would you understand as curriculum before we proceed. Yeah. So some quick responses in the next few seconds. Any response?
It's everything that needs to be covered when it comes to all-round development of the student.
Okay, yes. Everything that needs to be covered. What else?
Framework.
Okay. That consists of?
Yeah, of a defined framework with a focus, boundary, and defining the outcomes, starting from the course to the learning outcomes, from both from the mentor and the learners.
Okay, great. Anything else?
One response I've got is something that you want those learners to learn.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So that was nice to just initially brainstorm and see and to understand that it's a framework. It comprises of certain outcomes that we want to achieve. It is what we want to cover or everything that we are covering in our course, our program. It is something that we want learners to learn and understand. Now that itself, yes, in a way encompasses, some idea of what curriculum really stands for. Though as we proceed, it is our hope, both myself and Dr. Madhuri, that we would be able to understand that as much as it is a laying down of what the learner should achieve, it is also creating a kind of a blueprint, creating a kind of a roadmap, creating a kind of a pathway for which the learner and we and all that come our way in the interaction or the engagement of the course or the program would come across, okay? Or how would we evolve as individuals who are engaging together? A kind of a vision that we put forward, a kind of a dream that we put down on paper with, of course, achievable targets that we want to achieve, along with the kind, why did I use the word blueprint? Because it is along with how we are going to achieve these things. So it is also about the pathway that we are also concerned about. Now, with this brief idea that we have, we are all coming from different types of institutions. Some of us are affiliated colleges. Some, like this college, is an autonomous college. And some of us may be directly from the university system. And if I were to ask of you, like coming from these different institutions, who would you see is primarily involved in curriculum development? I would want to hear again from you all. Who do you think is involved in curriculum development and this process of curriculum development? Or who do you think has a greater role to play? Yes.
I think, to my mind, there are so many stakeholders. So, when we start the curriculum development, we, of course, the first most important stakeholder is the student, for whom the curriculum is being made.
Yeah.
And then, based on what we are expecting as an outcome of the curriculum, the stakeholders which are involved, whether it is the employers, who look at certain skill sets coming in the training. So that needs to be embedded in the curriculum. And of course, our alumni. And so basically, the synthesis of a curriculum has to start from taking feedbacks from all important stakeholders, because at the end of the day, whatever we are framing is for a defined outcome. Yeah.
So rightly said, it is a variety of people that get involved and different kinds of stakeholders. Okay, so who primarily then, if I were to ask you so who primarily takes the ownership of doing a curriculum? They are involved, but who would you say is the responsibility with?
I think it's the faculty of the institution, basically.
Yeah. It's the faculty of the institution, yes, whether an affiliated or an autonomous or it is a university system, it is the faculty of the institution that play a very crucial role in the, in the development of the curriculum. And I think that's something that it's very heartening to hear. Now, when we talk, or remember when we were part of affiliated systems, we would remember that it was the university that primarily legitimizes the academic and administrative processes. Yeah, it says, okay, this is the way this should be conducted. If you want to give a BA degree or a BSc degree or a BCom degree, these are the kind of processes in terms of academic and administrative that you would need to fulfill. You would also talk about engaging with different kinds of curricular aspects. It engages with that as to what then should be, the kind of the number of hours, the kind of duration, what should be the outcome, what should be the content that would be transact. And also it plays a mandating role in visualizing appropriate curricular programs to even revisit, update, ensure the outcomes are defined. Now, if this is what universities are going to do, then what does really autonomous and affiliated colleges then really do? And actually now we would put autonomous colleges along with universities, okay, which will say that they are the ones who legitimize administrative and academic, they decide the curricular aspects, they play a mandatory role in all these things, in updating, revising, ensuring outcomes are defined, etc. We also see that affiliated colleges, if some of you who are a part of this seminar are from the affiliated colleges and would wonder what you are doing over here in a topic that talks about curriculum development, we say that it evolves ways of implementing the curricula in alignment with the institutional goals, with the resource potential that one has. It sees how it can modify or it can contextualize the given curriculum to the local conditions that the college operates in or operates from. And it is in alignment with the clientele that they are dealing with. Okay. And also you are rendering prescribed curriculum into an institutional appropriate practice. And that's why we see criteria 1. Whether we are affiliated or autonomous, of course, weightages differ, but we are asked to see and reflect through the accreditation process as to how does this reflect the institutional vision and mission? How does this be in alignment with what we are set up for or what we are claiming to be set up for as institutions? So to understand what curriculum is, whether students or teachers alike, I think we need to ask these questions that we need to ask when we join a course, when we are looking for a course, when we become a part of a course, when we join a particular institution, or need to ask what should be taught, what aims in education are worth pursuing. See, as different philosophers, as different people who have thought and engaged in the process of education, we have multiple aims that one wants to accomplish. Now, when we see whether it is different educational forums, when we look at different international and national level bodies that are talking of societal development, all of them look to education for a solution of their problems. And they give us different kinds of goals. Now, which of them in education at your institute is worth pursuing is a question that you need to ask. How should and would the old curriculum, when you are in the process of development, how would the old curriculum be different from the new curriculum? Okay, how should curriculum be taught? Even asking this question of what and how you are going to transact the content is a matter that should concern people in curriculum studies. And therefore, friends, this answer to these questions is nothing but giving a vision of the capabilities, values that every individual needs to have. So curriculum is nothing but, as I began by saying, it is that kind of a vision that I am putting together of what kind of capabilities and values every individual, whether student or teacher alike, should have by virtue of being part of that particular program and courses that constitute the program. So it is about the socio-political and cultural vision that society has. Yeah, and that's why very nicely I see that it is blended as to curriculum development in alignment with NEP, because ultimately this process of developing this vision is based on the vision of the country, and this vision of the country is put down in a policy document. So any educational policy document is the dream that I have for my young through the process of education. And that is educational policy in short. And therefore, curriculum is closely anchored on this. And this is nothing but curriculum and curriculum framework. Now, you see, the curriculum provides experiences that build knowledge base through a progressive introduction. What are we introducing to them? We are wanting, or we are providing those experiences. Therefore, in the LO, if you are on outcome-based education, if you're following that format, which the new NEP says, and those books that we have, UGC has come up with when outcome-based, it talks about how through curriculum, we are talking of evolving capabilities to think rationally, to understand world through different disciplines, to foster an aesthetic appreciation of sensitivity towards others, to participate in the economic processes of the society. Now, isn't this what NEP 2020 talks about? So it is how I am evolving certain kinds of competencies and capabilities based how I am using different kinds of disciplines as perspectives, as mediums, as frameworks, instruments for what? To foster that kind of aesthetic appreciation towards others, and how in turn every individual that comes out of the system is capable enough to participate in the economic processes of the country. And therefore, curriculum is nothing but the cognition, the skills, the attitude, and the dispositions that need to be mastered, to be taught in sequence. It relates to the whole phase of education. Okay, and that is the vision for its young that we establish based on a process of negotiations. Now, I want to take note, and I think Dr. Madhvi will deal more with this of negotiations later. Remember, curriculum is development, policy formulations are a process of negotiations and constant negotiations. We have to discuss, we have to give, we have to take, we have to be in a state of willingness to be able to give and take. And of course, like any decision, the voice of the powerful will be reflected. Now, the voice of the powerful is reflected in the policy or the curriculum, and therefore, this curriculum is not given. It has to be contested at each stage. So if it has come from your academic council, if it has come from your university, if it has come from your regulating body, it is you need to feel agentic enough that you have to negotiate with it. It is not something that cannot be altered, changed, and cannot be brought into local conditions. But it is up to you to have that kind of capability, strength, will, determination to negotiate across different levels. So therefore, we see that when we talk, according to Winch, now some of these names would be people who have written in curriculum studies, we say we need to understand it is deep-rooted into cultural attitudes. Okay. It is also depending on what we think as important for transferability. It also depends and it anchors on the imperative of economic growth and welfare. It is based on the changing demands of those who wish to be educated. Sometimes students say, "Hame ye chahiye, we want to learn this, we want to learn that." And therefore, curriculum depends also on that, on what the expectations of the students and the stakeholders are. Okay, and therefore, you have this whole criteria for quality assessment. Even whether you call us your accreditation institutes or whatever, but where do we differ as institutions? We differ if we are able to be able to understand that we have the opportunity to make decisions, to choose ways of achieving our aims, and the way we make these decisions and the pathways we choose will decide our quality benchmarks that we have set. So if you are looking to any policy, whether it is NEP 1986 or it is NPE 2020, and think that they are उन लोग ने बताया नहीं ये कैसा करना है, क्या करना है, ये उधर तो लिखा तो है नहीं, but it is up to you to take this opportunity to choose ways of achieving those broad aims is what is going to be given to you. But it is then how do you translate that broad aims? How do you decide to go ahead with that is a matter of what will set you distinctively apart from other institutions. And therefore, this common approach and the latest approach, I would want to, stop here with this small thing and then over to Dr. Madhavi, is where we are seeing that whenever we are talking of curriculum approach, we are talking of it, when we are talking of curriculum, there are three types, or there are three parts to a, not types, three parts to a curriculum. Okay, so if this curriculum is envisioned as a circle, you have three parts, that is the specified, the experienced, and the enacted. Now, when we are talking of specified curriculum, we are talking about that aspect of the curriculum from the lens of content. So, matlab, jo sikhana hai, what is going to be taught is the specified curriculum. So, even if you feel helpless, that you are a recipient, you are only a recipient of one part. The next part is when this content is brought to the classroom and then it is enacted into the classroom between the teachers and the given set of students. It becomes an enacted curriculum. And you will agree with me that enacted curriculum will change from class to class based on the teachers and the set of students. Yes? So when I taught even a topic of e-learning, or I teach a course of higher education at my department, I teach the course of philosophy of education, the same syllabi, but when I taught it in semester 1 in 2020 and semester 1 in 2021, the syllabi took a different meaning in the curriculum. And that is called as because of variations and mediating influences, and that is enacted curriculum. When I enact this curriculum into the classroom, I come up with certain kinds of experiences, which in turn will form an important part in the evaluation of the curriculum process and further development of the curriculum process. And that is nothing but experienced curriculum. So when you are talking of curriculum, according to Murphy and Henson, 2008, these three things you should be very mindful of: the specified, the enacted, and the experienced. Okay. And based on this, and this experience is based on human nature and action, and based on this, he argues that theories of how students and learn and develop are essential in terms of taking into account as to be what is selected for inclusion in the curriculum, how is curriculum taught in the classroom, what are the different kinds of pedagogical strategies that are employed, what is the nature of the teacher's role in relationship to the teachers and learners, are questions that we need to address. So you cannot make only a list of content, module, unit, without being mindful of these various aspects. And therefore, even in your quality assessment practices, you are expected to understand the entry level of students. You are expected to make profiles of students, because it is up to be based on these variations would the curriculum differ. And therefore, we can look at curriculum from these four lenses. You can either look at it from the lens of being a syllabus. You can look at it as being a product, an endpoint. As an autonomous institution, I have come up with a curriculum framework document and I'm very khush. Okay. At the end of it, I have achieved this. You can talk of it as a process. You can talk of it as a praxis. Now let's look at it in these different kinds of, quickly look at it in these different kinds of, perspectives. So when I'm looking at it with respect to being a syllabus, I'm looking at it only as a content of body of knowledge to be transmitted. How many of us want to, this is essential, but cannot settle here. Why we should not settle here? The last sentence I would like you to read. It says, if you understand curriculum as a syllabus, you are likely to hamper than to assist curriculum development or change. Yes? So this is essential, but do not settle here. When you look at it as a product, you need to look at these four principles. That is, you need to write down objectives. You need to introduce certain learning experiences. That is the kind of content. You need to organize these experiences and to maximize its effect. And you need to evaluate the various processes. If you're looking at it as a process, remember, negotiating the fundamental ideas and aims of curriculum is what you need to do. It needs to be a process of planned, implemented, and learned curriculum. It needs to be a cumulative learning cycle within the curriculum. So my learnings of 2021, should inform 2022. Okay, based on the experiences that I have gone through. And then I move on to understand the next one. Thus, curriculum has to be viewed as a complicated conversation. It cannot be viewed of it only as a set of objectives to be transferred and ensured to be happen, but a complicated praxis. Okay, and because it's a complicated praxis, I then need to be having an emphasis on informed, committed, and emancipatory action. Emancipatory because I free myself and my students from the shackles of only taking or being an instrument of receiving something that is given, but I'm part of, and I lightly, as you all said, I'm a part of creation of the curriculum. I'm a part of deciding how and in what direction it is going and why is it going and how can I change this. And therefore, it is all about having a dynamic interaction between action and reflection. Action and reflection. Therefore, NAC also emphasizes feedback, reflecting, changing. How often has the curriculum been changed? Autonomous institutes, universities, what modifications have you made? Because you are expected to look at it as a dynamic interaction. And therefore, with this thoughts of what a curriculum is and should be, over to Dr. Madhvi to take it further from here.